Hello, FPL managers. Welcome to the FPL Optimized podcast. This is episode number 74, and there is never a dull moment in the world of FPL, and that's especially true at this moment with injuries and potential blanks and doubles coming at us thick and fast. I am Bas, the casual manager, and my co host is Sertalp, the data scientist. This is the podcast in which we combine analytics with the good old eye test. Data or grass or data and grass? That's the question. We had a Q&A episode last week and today we will cover our usual content. Sertap, are you ready for it?
I'm ready for it. I missed our usual format.
Yeah. Well, it was good. I enjoyed last week with the Q&A. But we didn't cover our game week 20 scores yet. So let's take a look at that.
Yeah, let's start with that. So I finished the game week with 88 points, and you will talk about your game week, but you finished with 90 points. Just 2 points ahead of me, which brings our
90
head-to-head.
points. Wow.
Congratulations. It was a high-scoring game
Thank
week
you.
overall, but yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
So not much to talk about, I guess. Like Palmer got 18 points, which made me really happy.
Yeah.
And I think Alvarez was a
Yeah.
good captaincy choice. We talked about it. And I was actually surprised how many points Salah got despite missing a penalty. I
Yeah.
don't know. It was an interesting
Yeah.
game week, but I enjoyed it. Green arrow is always good.
Yeah, definitely. Especially again at your rank, it's not so easy to keep climbing, but the green arrow is always good. And same for me. Maybe a bit easier to get green arrows where I am in the ranking. But even though I don't have too many green arrows, so I'm happy with that one. Yeah, a bit of a roller coaster because I had Salah as a captain who played in the final game of the game week. So you're always a bit waiting and hoping that he will deliver. And as you said, it didn't start too well with him missing a penalty, but luckily he made up for it later. And yeah, for me as a Dubravka owner, actually the penalty miss didn't hurt me too much because I got some good save points for Dubravka, so that was
Yeah.
that was quite nice. And as you said, I ended with 90 points, which finally gave me a good score and a nice green arrow. So I hope I can keep building from here. So yeah, with that covered and with our head-to-head score 11-9, I'm not giving up. I'm not too far away.
Yeah.
Let's switch attention to the upcoming game weeks. And as usual, we will start with our fixture ticker.
Yeah, Manchester City is at the top of our fixture ticker once more. They have Newcastle game this week, but then they have good fixtures from game week 22 to 26. Although, well, obviously, like there are some possibilities of blanks and doubles, so some of
Oh
these
yeah,
fixtures will change. But this
yeah.
is as is right now what the models are giving.
Okay.
So Arsenal is at the second place. They are playing against Crystal Palace, and that's actually the only favorable fixture in the sticker for this game week, making up
Oh,
to our 10th percentile. That special bracket.
yeah,
Um, in
yeah.
this game, their defensive point average is 4.5 and offensive point average is 5.1, so pretty good. That's part of the reason why. Well, both ways actually. But you will see towards the end of this episode that in terms of the optimal captaincy or what the models are saying, we often see
Right.
Saka leading that discussion.
Mm-hmm.
So at the third place we
Okay.
have Liverpool. They are playing against Bournemouth. It's not an easy game. Both like defensively, maybe offensively not too bad, but defensively it looks like a little bit low, and Gameweek Odds will also support this. Their good fixtures are in Gameweek 24
Okay.
and 25. And then we have
Yeah.
Brighton, then we have Newcastle at the 5th place, and then Manchester United, Aston Villa, Tottenham,
Yeah.
Chelsea, and Brentford. So these are the top 10 teams based on the fixture difficulty between Gameweek 21 and 26.
Yeah.
Any comments,
Yeah.
boss?
Okay, no, that's good. As always, a good chart to keep in mind for our team selections and player selections.
Mhm.
Yeah, just a little bit difficult now with some of the key players being out. Like Haaland is still not back. Hopefully, we can count on him for game week 22 against Burnley. That would be an obvious captaincy candidate. Liverpool, good fixtures, but Salah is missing, and now also Trent is missing. So yeah, I need to keep an eye on what that will do to the team. And same for Spurs, as we discussed before, with Son out. They're also missing a key player. I like the Brighton fixtures. So
You do? Okay.
Brighton, I think, is a team more and more people start to look at again with Astupinen back. A lot of people are talking about Gross in the midfield and potentially João Pedro in front. So there's a good few good options there, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so these are the best teams in terms of the upcoming fixtures. Let's now
Mhm.
look at the worst teams.
And by the way, you're right about the fixture difficulty of Brighton. Like, if we just don't consider, the team strength itself by fixtures, Brighton has the best fixtures in this
Oh,
horizon.
okay. Oh,
And
that's good.
yeah, worst teams. We have Sheffield United at the top of this chart, and then Luton Town,
Yeah,
Burnley,
yeah,
Nottingham Forest, Bournemouth, Crystal Palace, Everton, Fulham, West Ham, and Wolves. Well, Sheffield United is playing against West Ham. Their offensive point average is quite low for this game, and Bournemouth's defensive point is very low. They are playing against Liverpool, so it's only 2.4. So we kind of expect goals in that game. But the lowest one
yeah.
is Crystal Palace actually for this game week. Is they are playing against Arsenal away, and their defensive point
Okay.
average is only 2.2, and offensive point average is 3.4. Obviously, they're also missing a key player. Yeah. So some of these teams were always
Mm.
here in this half of the chart, so not
Yeah.
very surprising, I guess.
Yeah, not so much to say about it. I think just maybe West Ham, who have been doing quite well so far, but going forward, they will miss a few key players. With Kudus, went to the
Yeah.
Africa Cup, and now both Bowen and Paqueta seem to be injured. So
Yeah.
I think, yeah, they might have a bit of a tough period without some of those players. Yeah.
Yeah. And also, we can talk about the game week odds. Actually, there's a remark from
Yeah.
Rapti FPL about that. So if we are
Okay,
just
let's
checking
do that.
for this game week, so West Ham's projections dropped off around 0.25 goals for this game week
Okay.
after
Mm-hmm.
Paqueta and Bowen's injury news. So that's very significant, actually. And
Yeah.
well, we have this
Yeah.
spread also for this game week, so that you can think that for longer injuries, so the impact will be also felt in the upcoming weeks. And another note from
Yeah.
again Rob T is the first time it's the first time in this season that Newcastle have been projected to concede more than 2 goals at home, and they're playing against Manchester
At
City,
home.
so it's
Yeah.
kind of expected. But yeah, it is 2.1 expected goals for Manchester City against Newcastle, and Newcastle's clean sheet probability
Mm-hmm.
is only 12%, so it is one of the lowest. And
Okay.
actually, the lowest clean sheet probability
Yeah.
is Crystal Palace with 11% against Arsenal. Arsenal is projected to score 2.2 goals
Awesome.
against them, and Arsenal
Yeah.
also has the highest clean sheet probability with 50% this week. And there's a big difference
Okay.
between Arsenal and other teams, like 50% the highest, and then the highest is 35% by Chelsea, if I'm seeing this correctly, and also Manchester City against Newcastle. Um, so yeah, so Arsenal is the
Yeah.
team to maybe invest if you are just thinking about this game week particularly.
This game week. Yeah, even though they have been struggling a bit in recent game weeks, so I think there are a few questions about their form. Also, didn't keep a clean sheet now for a few games.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, of course, it's a good home fixture against Crystal Palace. I personally think, just on paper, to me, the Chelsea fixture looks better. Chelsea at home against Fulham.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, apparently based here on the odds, Arsenal is the one to bet on. Let's say, yeah. Okay, yeah, and City, as we talked about, there is a chance that Haaland will be back, even though he didn't play any minutes yet. So I think, looking also what Pep is doing with De Bruyne, I think he's being really careful. I guess he will do the same with Haaland, even if he's back. I'm not sure if he will start the game. Maybe he'll just be on the bench. Um, and Newcastle, yeah, they have been struggling lately, as we know. Also, they have injuries. So I think that's also why the clean sheet odds have dropped.
Mm-hmm.
But still a strong team, of course. Okay, okay. Lots of interesting information to digest. Thanks
Mm-hmm.
for that. And as always, this gives us a good idea of the teams we should be considering. Next up, let's look at the individual players by looking at who increased and who dropped in EV.
Yeah, I was checking the EV changes a little bit, and then I realized that some models, think they were not really, they didn't model the players who will be leaving for AFCON previously properly. So
Okay.
suddenly there's a drop in, some of the players' minutes, like Salah and Son, even though they had to do it like even earlier than that. So I dropped those models. So this custom weight ensemble has only two or three models. I think three models that I
Okay.
think was modeling the projections more correctly for this horizon. So it's like less
Okay.
number of models than usual for this mix. Um,
Okay. Yeah.
so at the top
Yeah.
of this chart, we have Lamptey from Brighton, whose EV increased 5 over next 6 game weeks. His EV especially increased towards game week 25 and 26. And in the second rank, we have Isaac from Newcastle. Obviously, Wilson's injury increased his EV both for this game week, next game week, and also game week 23. It's all around like 1 EV for these 3 game weeks, and in total, it is around 4 for the next 6 game weeks. And we have Doku at the third place. His EV increased especially for this game week, so I guess models are expecting him to start this week.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have Ake in the fourth place. And then we have Richarlison in fifth place. I was actually surprised to see his name here because I thought transfer news of like Werner might actually
Yeah.
impact his minutes so that maybe he was about to lose some, minutes, therefore some expected value. But I guess with Son out, we were talking with you before the recording, so you mentioned that with Son out, I think we
Yeah.
expect Richarlison to play. So, which means that until game week 26, maybe his EV is not dropping that much and actually
Yeah.
increasing in models for some reason. And sixth place we have Palmer, and his EV increased around
Yeah.
0.7 this game week and 2.6 overall. And then we have Gakpo at the seventh place, and then Trusty from Sheffield United, eighth place, and then Rashford, ninth place, and
Okay.
finally Foden at the bottom of this chart. Any comments, Bas?
Not too many. Just when you mentioned Rashford's name, I think, yeah, Man United, they have been struggling, but they have an interesting formation now, with Rashford now playing on the left. And he also has been scoring a few goals now in recent game weeks. So there could be an argument to be made that, he's back in the team and he's also finding some form back. So I think, with that in mind, Rashford is an interesting one to keep an eye on, and I think
Mm-hmm.
also based on that recent performance is why we see him here in this chart, because it looks like the models have increased their expected or his expected points for the next weeks. So yeah, it could be maybe a nice differential because we also the Man United fixtures look quite good. I think some people or also we have been mentioning Bruno. So Bruno is of course an interesting option. There is Garnacho who will play on the right, but there's also now Rashford and who's playing on the left. So that could be an interesting one. Also a bit of a differential, of course, at the moment. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, so these are the ones that have increased in EV. Now
Mm-hmm.
let's look at the ones who dropped.
Uh, March is at the top of this chart, and his
Hmm.
EV dropped around 15, very significant for the next 6 game weeks.
Yeah.
Um, and is he out for an injury? I think you.
Yeah, he is out, but he was out already, so
Yeah,
maybe
he was
he's
out
just
already.
now out longer than expected. I think there is no return date mentioned here in the FPL app. It says that yeah, knee injury, unknown date. So I guess the models just took now a longer horizon for his injury.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. And in the second place, we have Alexander Arnold, who lost 8 EV for the next 6 game weeks, and 3.5 of them are only from this game week
Yeah.
21. Obviously, we learned about his injury news. So I think models are kind of thinking he will be back by game week 25 for sure.
Right.
Because after that, the drop is like negligible. But
Yeah.
even then, for maybe game week 23, the loss in EV is only like half, like less than
Hmm.
half. So models are probably thinking that he will be back by game week 23, 24, probably.
Okay.
Um, and at the third place, we have Wilson, whose EV dropped around 7.2 for the next 6 game weeks.
Mm.
And in the fourth place, we have Madison. I think Madison, again, I think the same thing. He
Yeah.
was already injured, but the return date is uncertain. And I think I was reading the Twitter today, and then I saw something like he's expected to be back, like sooner than expected. But
Okay.
but I saw that news today, and then we're using the data from this
Sure.
morning. So maybe
Yeah.
models haven't updated about, they didn't catch that news yet.
Yeah.
But yeah, he lost around 6.5 EV over this horizon. Models are kind probably were thinking that he will be out longer, but maybe after, the next update, this will change. Um, in fifth place, we have Bowen. Obviously, he was the
Yeah.
main topic of the week. Like lots of people transferred him in, and then we learned that he
Yeah.
might be out this week. His EV loss is mainly from this game week, 2.8, and then over the horizon is 3.8. So I guess that injury won't be, well, as far as the models go, they think it's mainly impacting this game week, but
Right.
maybe future game weeks too. Um, in the sixth place we have
Yeah,
Martinez.
it's
Oh,
not so clear yet, and I think there were no press conferences yet, so we're just waiting for more information there.
and Bas, did you have Bowen or did you transfer him in?
No, I didn't. No.
And you didn't do
Um,
an early transfer, I assume.
well, actually, I did.
Oh, you did.
And that's, I know it's a big debate at the moment because some people moved early, for example, on Bowen. And Trent is another example. Players
Yeah.
getting injured during the game week. And of course, a lot of people say, well, it wasn't smart to do early transfers. It's better to wait for more information. And that's right. Not much else we can say about it. I think it's just, yeah, I guess some people get anxious when they see that prices could go up or could drop. That's why they go early. In my case, I went from Salah to Foden. When did I do that? 2 days ago.
Hmm.
Just because
Salah was going down. Foden
yeah,
was going
Foden
up.
was going up, and also I was thinking like City had their game, so I thought I was quite safe to go for it. Even though you never know what can happen during training, or you don't know what can happen, of course, with other players. But yeah, I thought let's get it over with. One thing to less to think about during the week. So I did Salah to Foden, and I did Semenyo, who I had in front. He went to the Africa Cup, and anyway, I wanted to change him. I changed the menu to Joe Pedro to have a Brighton
Oh,
player there. Yeah,
you have Joe Pedro. That's
Yeah, man. Surprise, surprise.
wow. So you use your free
I had
transfers
two free
already.
transfers going into this game week.
That's
Yeah.
nice. Okay, let's continue our list. We will talk about your team again probably.
Okay.
At the sixth place we have Martinez of Manchester United, and then we have Zinchenko at seventh place.
Yeah.
And you mentioned he didn't play for last 2 game weeks. That's why his EV is dropping
Yeah,
probably.
I have him in my team, so that was a bit annoying. Even though Arsenal didn't keep a clean sheet, so I didn't miss too much. But um, it's always bad news when a player doesn't play if you don't expect it. I think we were expecting him to play, and then suddenly he was out of the team. So it seems he has a calf injury, and it's probably not so clear when he will be back. So it's something I need to keep an eye on. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
But you
I
have him
also
too,
have.
right?
Yeah, yeah, I am.
Yeah.
Yeah, I need to check what the
Yeah.
projection is.
Yeah.
And then at the eighth place we have Taylor of Burnley, and then Soboslai of Liverpool at the ninth place.
Yeah.
And he's injured, and he lost 2 EV for this
Yeah.
game week. And finally we have
Yeah.
Robertson at 10th place. Again, he was injured already, so models are probably updating his return dates to be longer than expected. Yeah, these are the players who lost
Yeah.
EV.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. So I think as we discussed, a lot of it is injury related. Either new injuries or maybe some players staying longer injured than maybe was expected. And yeah, I was thinking. So one of the biggest ones that is hitting many teams this week is of course Trent, because Trent was doing so well, and I think a lot of managers bought him in recent game weeks. But now we will be out for I think 3 to 4 weeks. So with that in mind, maybe we should look at some of the best defensive options to consider. Do you
Yeah,
have anything available for that?
yeah, you asked me
Excellent.
about this, so I was checking the FPLReview and Mikkel Tokvam's like transfer algorithm data. I just mixed them 50-50 just to see what the models like in this category.
Yeah.
So for the next six
Yeah.
game weeks, so the player with the highest expected value is Walker, whose EV is
Okay.
22.82. And then we have
Yeah.
Gabriel and also Saliba. So Arsenal has good fixtures, and these players are these players are expected to play. They have like high expected minutes, so that they have
Yeah.
22.5 and 22.3 respectively. And then we have Diaz at the fourth
Yeah.
place. And then comes
Okay.
Estupinan in fifth place with 21.7
Yeah.
EV. And then we have Van Dijk at sixth place, actually, 21.4 EV. But he's more expensive than most players in this chart. And
Yeah.
then we have White at seventh place with 21.4 EV, and then Trippier, who's like very expensive, but his EV is 20.1. And we have Dunk, 19.7 expected value, and then Zinchenko finally here with 19.5. So despite the lower
Yeah.
or uncertain minutes, I should say, he's still in this list, top 10 defenders. And then at the 11th place we have Pedro
Yeah.
Porro, who is also like widely
Okay.
owned, but his EV is 19.4. So I think most people have like relatively like similar set of players. But yeah, Arsenal. If you don't have an Arsenal
Yeah.
defender, it is maybe time to consider because they are playing against Crystal Palace and then Nottingham Forest. They have Liverpool game, but that's he's the EV for that game week is not going to be good anyway. But the remaining ones are still nice. West
No.
Ham, Burnley, and then they play Newcastle. Game week 26. So yeah, these are the top defenders. I
Yeah.
think the interesting thing is their EV is very close to each other. Like between
Yeah. That's true.
22.8 to 19.4. So not a big difference. Not a huge range, I should say. So what matters is how you are going to rotate with your
No.
existing defenders. So that's probably the main thing here. Like if you can afford to bench them for Gameweek 23, Arsenal defenders are really good, for example.
Yeah, that's true. And I also like Walker. Just looking at his ownership, it's what is it? 17? Yeah, 17%. So yeah, reasonable, but not that high considering that he's the City defender who started every game so far. So he's very nailed, at least until now, and only 5.4 in the City defense. Not too bad.
Yeah, and
Could
guess
be an
who has
interesting
Walker
option.
already?
Yeah. Oh, I guess it's you.
It's me, but well, City
Yeah, and I
never
also like
keeps a clean sheet.
Estupinan.
Yeah, Estupinan, okay.
No, that's it. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's why his ownership is not higher, I think.
Mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm,
of course, Estupinan, we talked about him before. He's back. He scored 2 goals in the last 2 games. I think one Premier League, one FA Cup game.
mm-hmm.
And yeah, he seems to be in good form. 4.9. Brighton has good fixtures, so I think a lot of people are looking at him. Of course. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so that was all very useful. Thanks, as always,
Mm-hmm.
Sertalp. So now, yeah, bringing it all together, how does the optimal team look like at the moment? And yeah, mind you, I think with all the injuries happening, some managers might feel forced or might be considering to push the wild card button. So the optimal team information could be especially relevant for them. But I would say, if possible, try to save your wild card for a bit later because yeah, we still miss some information about the blank and the double game weeks. So it's always better to keep it if you can. Would you agree to that, Sertop?
Yeah, I agree. Like without knowing exactly how the doubles and blanks will fall, like if you wildcard right now, you might find yourself with like severely suboptimal team when the time
Yeah,
comes. Maybe like you won't have enough players in your lineup, or maybe
yeah,
you won't have enough players with doubles in your lineup compared to the field. So it's better to
yeah,
wait for
yeah,
the wild card. There's also a like chip, uh, you know, chip usage episode from Planet FPL podcast,
yeah,
which seems like people are very favoring. So maybe give it a listen, and then like you can consider your plans. But unless you have, I don't know, maybe like more than 4 or 5 players out already, it is better to wait and try to maybe cover it with the hits if possible.
yeah,
And it
yeah,
might be even like okay to play with like 10 players this game week. I should say that because like some of these players who are injured, they might be back because after this deadline, there's like 2 weeks gap, right? Until
yeah.
the next one.
True.
So maybe the
Yeah,
players will be back. Some of these players
yeah,
who are like we don't know
yeah.
exactly what's going on. So yeah, it's a little bit difficult
Right.
to wildcard right now. So if you haven't activated your wildcard yet and then thinking
Yeah,
about it, I would favor towards not using it. But again, optimal team is
yeah,
something of a good reference for everyone. So I will go over these optimal teams. Again, I'm using 101.3 team value. And then I'm force rebuying all the players so that maybe you have more budgets in your team so that you can upgrade some of these players. But this should be a baseline. Um, FPL Review's team is composed of these players. So it has Ederson and Turner as goalkeepers. And in defense, it has Gabriel, Saliba, Konsa, Estupinan, and Konate. In midfield, it has Saka,
okay.
Eze, Palmer, Bruno Fernandes, and Richarlison. And finally, in forward, it has Solanke, Joe Pedro, and Darwin. And Mikkel Tokvam's model
Mm.
has Ederson and Areola. As you see, so the bench or the second goalkeeper is changed from Turner to Areola in this one. And in the defense, we have
Yeah,
Gabriel, Saliba, Estupinan, Van Dijk, and Pau. So as you see, the composition is the same. 2 Arsenal defenders, 1 Brighton, 1 Liverpool, and 1 Aston Villa. But
yeah,
Liverpool and Aston Villa defenders are different. In midfield, we have Saka, Gross, Eze, Palmer, Richarlison. So the only difference is Bruno Fernandes in Review's model and Gross in Mikkel Tokvam's model. And in forward, we have Solanke,
Right.
Alvarez, and Haaland. Two players are different here. Joe Pedro and
Okay.
Darwin was in Review's model, and then Alvarez and
Yeah.
Haaland in Tokvam's.
Yeah.
If we take a 50-50 mix of these two models, we get this team. Ederson and Areola, goalkeepers, Gabriel, Saliba, Estupinan, Doughty, and Pau in defense. So it's a little bit strange because like you had the composition of like two Arsenal, like one Aston Villa, one Brighton, one Liverpool defender, but here like it drops the Liverpool defender, and it has in the midfield it has Saka, Eze, Palmer, Bruno Fernandes, and Richarlison. So if you take the average, Bruno Fernandes is ahead of Kroos
Right.
for the optimal as the optimal midfielder, and in forward we have Solanke, Tony, and Darwin. So it is quite a spicy forward again. Like Tony, like obviously he's back, and he's not highly owned, obviously. So yeah, I'm curious, and I'm actually surprised to see like his name in this like mixed model because none of the models like suggest him from the get go. But if you just mix them together, then you suddenly get Tony, which is funny.
Yeah.
Any
Yeah,
comments
I
for
thought
these
about
teams?
him. I don't like the. No, yeah, I thought about it. I thought about Tony. I don't like the Brentford fixtures too much going forward. Well, they have a good one coming up now against Nottingham at home, but then they play Spurs away, City at home, Wolves away, Liverpool at home, then West Ham, then Chelsea. So yeah, I mean maybe a few good games in there, but overall, I'll do a wait and see approach. I think.
Mm-hmm. His ownership is quite low, so yeah. For people who are chasing an upside, might
Yeah.
be a nice option.
No, definitely. Yeah.
And now for this
Okay.
mixed model, like if you start with this wildcard team, you know what happens in the future game weeks. So it has a big budget in the bank, so 8.7.
Hmm.
It is enough to cover that Tony to Haaland switch in game week 22. So it's already
Okay.
scheduling a transfer immediately. So Tony is only here for that single game week. And then it goes to Haaland,
Right.
which is the
Okay.
optimal captain for game week 22.
Yeah.
Um, obviously, this could change a little
Yeah.
bit if we know that Haaland is back for game week 21 for sure. Then it might be better to get the Haaland
Hmm.
from the get-go and then not spending your like free transfer for this
Right.
switch. So towards the deadline, maybe if we get more news or if we hear anything, maybe you can
Yeah.
check again. And then in game week 24, it sells Bruno Fernandes for De Bruyne. And then in game week 25, it sells Richarlison for Hee-chan. And Hee-chan might be back by game week 25, but by game week 26, he will certainly be back. And then he's playing against Sheffield United, so a good fixture to maybe get him. And he's going pretty well this season so far, and the models are favoring him. Yeah, this
Yeah.
is the optimal wildcard and the transfer
Yeah.
plan.
Okay. Excellent.
Mm-hmm.
Not much to add.
Mm-hmm.
Looks clear. Okay, so I think the final piece of information this week, as always, is the data about the captaincy options for game week 21. And yeah, with most of the big hitters not being available this week, Salah and Son are away, as we know, and Haaland will probably be difficult to count on. Let's see who the best candidates are at the moment.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a mix between these models. Like I dropped two models who
Right.
didn't seem updated, who had like Alexander Arnold and Bowen in top 5, so I just
Okay.
dropped those
Yeah.
models. If
Yeah.
we get the average of the remaining 5 ones, Saka is still optimal, like but with a tiny margin.
Yeah.
He's like in average projected to get 5.85 points.
Yeah.
In the ensemble model, and then Palmer is 5.80. So only 0.05 EV between the two. So I will say that like between them is 50-50 then. By the deadline, maybe Palmer will be higher. I'm not sure. But at the third place, we have
Mm.
Odegaard with 5.19. And then we have Darwin at the fourth place with 4.82. And Foden is at the fifth place with 4.80 EV. And again, even Foden is not too far from Saka. So, like, all of them are maybe viable options. Who are you captaining, guys?
I have it on Palmer because I like the fixture. Chelsea at home against Fulham. Fulham will be without Bassi in defense.
Mm-hmm.
He's on international duty. So yeah, I think Palmer did really well. Of course, last game week he has been doing well in general. Of course, that doesn't guarantee doesn't guarantee that he will do it again. But for me, I've just a better feeling about Chelsea at home versus Arsenal at home. So I think I'll bet on Palmer. Yeah, and you?
Um, well, yeah, between the two, Saka or Palmer for sure.
Yeah,
Since Saka is higher right now, I think I will go with Saka. But I was checking the equal like play time, and Palmer was higher in that
right.
metric, if I remember correctly. So yeah, could be Palmer too. I'm undecided
Okay,
on that. I will just wait for models to update and then see which one
right.
comes on top.
Okay, that's what you usually do, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anything else you're planning to do this week? Any transfers?
I think I will sell Salah for Bruno Fernandes. I was planning to go from like Salah to Bowen, but I missed the price
Oh,
change, and then like Salah was dropping, and then we had to wait. So then now that Bowen is probably out, I was checking, and then Bruno Fernandes is the optimal
hmm.
option. Looks
Okay.
like, yeah, unless anything changes until deadline, that's the move I'm thinking. And my
Yeah.
second free transfer, I might get Haaland back if there's a higher
Oh,
probability that he will be back. Otherwise, I will get him in game 22.
okay. Yeah, and we need to keep in mind the deadline this week is on Friday, so there is a
Yeah.
Burnley against Luton game Friday evening. So the deadline is Friday evening, and the City game is already on Saturday. So that's a little bit unfortunate because there are some teams playing only a week later. So we have a bit of a strange game week ahead of us. It starts
Oh.
now on Friday, January 12th, and it ends on Monday, January 22nd. So it's about 10 days in this game week.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and just, I think, with the City game already quite early in the schedule on Saturday, I think that makes it less likely that Haaland will play. But yeah, I still own him. I've owned him all the time, so I'll just start him. I hope he will play, but I'll see. Yeah.
Yeah. So, question for you though, like now that Chelsea is
Yeah.
like playing much earlier than like Arsenal, like will that like affect your captaincy choice? Like, do you prefer like captaining a player who will play later in the week, or like
Yeah,
in this case, there's a week between them?
it's a good point. I did think about it earlier because indeed they are playing on Saturday at 1:30. So yeah, what some people say here, like if your captain doesn't perform, then yeah, you kind of faced with that for the rest of the game week, and you kind of have to fear that others will do better. But I don't know. I mean, last week for me it was the opposite. I had Salah. He played the last game, but all the other players did really well. So then you're kind of also worried that your captain won't perform. So I think no matter how you turn it, yeah, you just you captain a player, you hope he will do well, and it doesn't matter too much in which game he plays. I'm just looking at the fixtures, and I think Chelsea at home against Fulham to me looks like a good fixture. So I'll take that one. Yeah.
Okay. Yep.
Does it matter to you?
No, I don't think so. I mean, like as a person who's experiencing it, obviously like there's some impact, but that like if I think that Saka is optimal, I don't mind, or like Palmer
Yeah.
is optimal, I don't mind like
Yeah.
choosing them because they are playing
You
in
could
the
also
same
turn the argument around. the later the game is, the more risk that somebody could get injured. I mean, right?
Sure.
I think if you bet on Chelsea and they play on Saturday, the deadline is on Friday, then it's quite likely that not much will change to the team. But Arsenal is only playing 1 week later. There's nothing you can do anymore because the deadline is already on Friday. So there is a bit more risk that a player could get injured. That could be an argument actually for going for an earlier game in terms of captaincy.
Yeah.
Or of course you can, and that's something you should always do. Of course, put your vice captaincy then on a safer option. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we covered a lot again. That's
Mm-hmm.
probably it for this week. Was there
Mm-hmm.
anything else you wanted to cover, Serdar?
No, I think there were lots of discussions about like making early transfers versus like waiting a little
Yeah,
bit longer. Well, it's widely discussed at this point, so I don't think I have anything to add to the discussion. Well, I just want to warn people
no,
that after after something has happened, then obviously the takes are a little bit biased. Like people got Bowen and then
yeah,
he got injured. Now, obviously the idea is that it was wrong to transfer him early because obviously like these kind of things could happen. Um, well, again, like after the fact, it's just easy to discuss. We also do it with the captaincy like discussions. I don't really
yeah,
enjoy making these kind of discussions, and if we are going to do it, it is better
no,
to do it with the support of data. How many times, if you transfer that player early just because for the price was increasing, what was the what was the historical rate of that player getting injured before you can even play him, what's the probability of you taking a hit because of it? Um, yeah, I mean, anecdotal
yeah,
evidence are not worth much. Like empirical examples, again, like they don't matter much.
yeah,
I'm not saying that it was wrong or right to transfer him, and for people could be, they might be doing it for different reasons, obviously. But yeah,
yeah,
it's just sometimes people discuss these things as if they really matter, but sometimes it's just luck. I mean, same thing with the captaincy. It happens all the time. Like you captain a player, another player gets a haul, and then suddenly everyone is like, "Yeah, signs were there. Obviously, this player was in form. Like, what were you thinking by not
yeah,
captaining him?" But if your player gets a haul, then you're suddenly a genius, which is weird to me. That's how it is.
yeah. Yeah, I think, in a way it is true that information is valuable. So it's always better probably to wait a bit longer. But yeah, on the other hand, budget matters, even though some people say now that the budget doesn't matter because, with Son and Salah and Haaland gone, everybody has a lot of money on the bank.
Yeah.
In the bank. But at some point they will be back, right? Salah, Son, Haaland, they will be back, and then budget matters again. So maybe at
Mm-hmm.
that point it does matter whether you have that point one or point two available. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's always a bit difficult, especially with the different websites predicting the prices to drop or to go up. If you see that somebody will drop and you have him, yeah, it's always quite difficult to wait, even though it could be the smart thing to do.
Yes.
But yeah, yeah, it's always in hindsight, as you said. That's for true. That's for sure. Okay. Well, I went early, as I said. I went for
Mm-hmm.
Foden and Joe Pedro, so fingers crossed that that will work. Let's see.
Yeah. Yeah.
Otherwise, you can tell me next week that I was stupid to go early.
Yeah.
Um, I think the final thing to do is take a look at the mini league because we
Mm-hmm.
didn't do that in a few weeks.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, the number of participants went up again. We're now at 366 teams in the mini league. So that's great to have everyone participating in it. Thanks, everyone. And you can still join if you want to. The code is 0JSDLA. And the number one team is Bloom, managed by Doom9. He has been in our top three since a while, so he's a stable performer. And with 1,307 points, he has an OR of 48 in the world. So that's quite impressive. Well done, Mr. Doom 9. The number two is a team we haven't seen in the top three before. It's Botman Returns, managed by Richard Smith, and he has a total of 1,291 points. And a number three, we have Matthew Allen with his team Grand Haven Broncos on 1,290 points. Well done, everyone. I'm really jealous of you, and yeah, keep it up. And Sertalp, I saw that you're doing quite well as well in the mini league. You're now on number 50.
Oh, I
But
am? Okay.
we have some really good managers in this mini league, don't you think?
Yeah. We were also checking comparing how analytical players are against other selected leagues like Elite 64, and yeah, analytical players are doing really well this season overall. So it's not surprising to me that we have really good teams in our mini league too.
So you're assuming that most managers in our mini league are analytical managers.
Well, not all of them probably, but most of them, I think. Well, the
Most
podcast
of
name
them,
is FPL
most of
Optimized,
them are
so
listening to you. Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
That's true. Good point.
but they can be
Okay, but
optimizing
that
with
was
their
it
eye
then for today.
test. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe they are listening to me,
Yeah, that's entirely
but
possible.
then they wouldn't be doing so well. So I hope they will listen more to you than to me.
Well,
But
maybe they
yeah,
got kudos and they got lots of points from him, which you didn't do.
true. Good point. Yeah. Okay, well, that was it again for today. Thanks, everyone. This was FPL Optimized podcast number 74. Good luck with making your Game Week 21 decisions. We hope our podcast has helped you to achieve a green arrow. And as I mentioned before, Game Week 21 will be quite a long game week. It will finish only on Monday, the 22nd of January. And then the Game Week 22 deadline will be on Tuesday, the 30th, meaning that we will have a bit of time now before we will record our next episode, at least the next regular one. So probably that's an opportunity for us to record again another special episode, let's say, either a Q&A one, or maybe we'll invite another guest next week. Let's see. You can subscribe to our podcast so you'll get notified when the next episode is released. And you can also follow us on X. For Sertalp, it's at Sertalp Bilal, and for me, it's at Belfi BB. And you can also find this podcast on YouTube.
And until next time, stay curious and stay analytical. Goodbye.
Goodbye.